Hey everyone, today we're going to be diving into a little sort of chill lo-fi hip-hop type beat I've been working on recently, using a guitar as the main melodic element. We're just using a VST guitar here, so possibly if I ever end up working on it more, I might end up recording my real guitar, but you know, that's something we can work on down the line. But for now, let's just take a look at the actual production here. I apologize in advance for the kind of less than ideal camera quality, but hopefully I've changed my settings a little bit in OBS. Hopefully the actual screen recording side of things is looking all right. So this is the project here. We've got 5 tracks, as you can see. We've got the drums, which, as I pretty much always do, I'm hosting in Taylor just with a couple different samples. Then we have a piano, guitar, and then we have what I've just called High, which is just an instance of Vital, so which is one of my favorite synth plugins. It's 100% free. And then we also have this bass track, which is another instance of Vital. So it's going to start off with this guitar here, which is the sort of main opening melodic sound. So we have AGML2, which is the Ample guitar M2 Lite. Ample is a company that makes a lot of sort of very high quality replications of real world instruments such as guitars. They have electric guitars, they have basses. So they have 2 free options, which is an acoustic guitar as well as a bass. Yeah, so we've got this guitar here. It's playing a riff that's kind of just a technique I use, kind of trying to be very careful to actually write it in a way that would match how an actual guitarist would play these chords. So, you know, of course, having a bit of a strumming effect, and then also some of the notes might just be delayed to a later part of the bar to sort of create a different sort of melody, and then doing that in each bar to create a unique sort of a unique melody, of course. So we've got that, and then in terms of processing, this is just going through Valhalla Supermassive. An all-time favorite reverb, of course, which is based on a delay, which is then warped to create the reverb. So the guitar pretty much plays the same thing throughout. We'll get into the form a little bit later. But for now, let's move on to the drums. So, as always, hosting this one in Taylor here, just using a variety of my own samples that I have. We have this lo-fi kick. Of course, mostly lo-fi sounds here. We have 2 different lo-fi snare and claps by Bo Beats. And then we have this hi-hat, which is from the Conforce Digitone pack. This is a drum beat we have. So we have that sort of feel almost towards the end. This is just running through a compressor just by Melda, who make a ton of incredible free plugins. And then again, Supermassive, this time using it in a more delay sense. So now let's move on to these synth elements. These are a bit different. So this first one, the high instance, we have this preset. It's just a square wave running through a filter. We do have some modulation occurring here, both with a LFO as well as an envelope, so the cutoff will rise up and then decay down a little bit. While it's sitting here, it will be oscillating up and down, and then it will release down. The release will be heard because the amp also has quite a decent release on it and a little bit of attack as well. So let's just take a listen to this. So you can see that oscillating. So now that this envelope has reached the sort of holding stage, once the decay is done, it's sustaining here. We are hearing that LFO go, and this is synced, so it's synced to the bars of the song, not necessarily to what time you press the note down. This is written in conjunction with the bass line, which is another Vital preset. It's got the same LFO movement happening, which is something I kind of really like to do with this one. This one, I believe the modulation is happening a bit faster, although I may be wrong. And then we've also, so that is of course modulating this one. There is also a sort of slow increase in the sound of the oscillator itself. If I turn off the filter, you'll hear that. So it slowly morphs through this wavetable, which is a little bit lost with the filter happening, but I still think it creates a good character. And then I've left the envelope completely default, actually, just didn't worry about changing that too much. But yeah, that's again a fairly simple but quite nice bass sound to use here. Again, following the sort of notes of that high pitch melody, but we also have these sort of, you know, slide notes here. So we'll just listen to these 2 elements sort of together. Yeah, so they are composed to sort of have, you know, the fifths playing, like one will play the root note and one will play the fifth. So either the bass will play a root note and this will play a fifth, of course, above it and then a few octaves up, or the high element will play a root note and then this will play a fifth, well, I guess a fourth below, because it would be a fifth up and then a few octaves down. And then over here in this B section, it's even more simplified. There's not even any of those glide notes. But then here there is, of course, those glide notes back and also a little bit more faster note changes within the bass line rather than what's happening in the high element. So that pretty much just leaves us with this piano to talk about. So this is pretty much playing in between the main downbeats to just add a bit more rhythmic interest, as well as, of course, just another melody to go with the rest of the melodic elements. So let's just take a listen to it in context, maybe without the drums. So it's hitting on those offbeats, which is that syncopated feel. And then it's playing all of these beats here and then sustaining along. So I originally wrote just the piano and guitar and then added in the other things. So you can definitely hear just between these two how they're kind of playing off of each other. You play the first chord and then you have these little sets of two, and then this chord is ringing out as this descending line plays in the offbeats, and then the last beat hits right when this chord starts to hit, and then you have these sort of repetitive 16th, or is that 16ths? Yeah, these repetitive 16th notes playing as this next chord happens. And then as it transitions into the next one, it just plays a couple of them and then rings out as the guitar starts to pick up in a little bit more unique rhythm. So they're never really playing anything too dense at the same time, if that makes sense. Anytime that one of them is actually playing a riff, the other one will just be holding that note or that chord, so that they can alternate off each other while still both maintaining interest. The piano here gets a little bit more interesting, I suppose. It kind of plays with the drum beat a little bit. So pretty much you'll have notes hitting at a similar time to when you do on these other ones. So pretty much you have the piano and drums hitting the notes at the same time. The piano comes in and then the drums pretty much come in to match it, but I actually wrote it the other way around. Originally the drums would come in and then at this point you'd have both hi-hats coming in as well as the piano to join in, but I felt that this was a better form to put it in. So that does pretty much sum up what's going on here. We've got all these different tracks. We have we have this B section here to shake things up a bit, as well as I really like these tiny little sort of breakdown fills in between. It adds a lot more interest and allows me to sort of keep the arrangement going with the same thing happening again, but it maintains a lot of interest, I think. I think it's a pretty good sort of lo-fi hip-hop-esque track, not exactly falling into that style. If you have any feedback or anything, always much appreciated. So if you would like to see more content like this, as well as a lot of other things, I have a lot coming up, more of these sort of track breakdown style things, as well as something interesting, which I'm not going to talk too much about, but some new work happening involving some of my older music. So that's going to be interesting. So stay tuned for that. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please do consider subscribing to my channel, as well as, of course, leaving a like on this video. And other than that, hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.